Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the DDO. This is round 2 coverage. Thank you so much to GK Productions for giving me this content to put on my YouTube channel. And also, huge thank you to my Patreons for making this possible. Could not do it without you guys. So, round 1, you guys saw a little bit of wind. And today here in Emporia, there is almost no wind. So the game plan is going to be a little bit different. I can be a little bit more aggressive. Hole 1, it's 1,000 feet. It's a par 5. And like we talked about yesterday, really the only OB that I'm worrying about is the one on the right. The OB on the left is pretty far over there. And it shouldn't really come into play unless you put it a little bit too nose up. The second shot is kind of depends where you land, what you want to do, how far you want to try to push it. But it does get more narrow towards the basket. So I do not want to push it too hard because this Disc Golf Pro Tour wall on the left is out of bounds. Yesterday I was between my two Zeuses. Today with no wind at all, I'm definitely going with my straighter Zeus. This one just gets a lot more glide forward before it starts to hyzer out at the end of its flight. Hyzer flip release again, and this one came out a little bit early, so I am going closer to that OB on the left, but still, as you can see, it's pretty far over there. I actually liked being over here because now I can kind of throw it towards the sidewalk or the OB road and not worry about it going too far that way. And this Undertaker just came out a little bit too low. As you can see, it just barely glided over that hill. So I'm going to be a little bit more short than I was yesterday, but this is a good distance for my Crystal Fierce, just right at the basket. And this one I loved so much. It came out so straight and just felt so good to get a good approach into that green and not have to putt. Hole 2 is 576 feet. It's a par 4, and it's pretty severely uphill for the first 80% of the shot. This big bush on the right side is probably the thing I'm thinking about the most, is to not hit that. Also, there's OB on the left side, and you obviously don't want to head too far left, so I'm thinking about that bush a lot because I'm trying to throw it more so up the right side of the fairway so that I don't bring that OB into play. I'm throwing my same Zeus, and I'm trying to go on a hyzer flip right up the middle. It's flipping to flat and gliding a long ways, and this is pretty ideal as far as where I want to be. The closer left you are, the better, because you don't have to contend with this branch up on your approach. But yeah, that one was a little bit too low because I was thinking about the branch so much. So I'm left with this about 100-foot shot. And I did not think that I could even get it to the basket. So I just putted it as hard as I could. And my Fierce just glided so nicely right into the basket. This was one of my favorite putts that I've hit. Felt like it was in the air forever. Hole 3 is 489 feet. It's a par 4. And you see these 4 trees off the tee pad. You want to go in between the one on the left and the one just right of that on a hyzer flip for me. A lot of players throw sidearm, but there's no way for me to get a sidearm down there, so I'm trying to throw my Undertaker on a hyzer flip. But yesterday, as you guys saw, I actually missed my gap, and I challenged the OB on the left. So today, I'm trying to make sure my release point is at the correct time, and I hit the proper gap. I've been loving this Undertaker for hyzer flip turnovers. It's similar to that Zeus, but a little bit slower of a disc. And this is exactly what I wanted. And I get that hyzer finish out to the left. I'm going to have an open look at a putt and just barely miss it to the right. This is fine in my mind. I was outside the circle, so that would have been a bonus if I got that one. And I did not leave myself with a 25-foot tester putt as I did yesterday, so I'm happy to pick up the birdie 3 there. So after the third hole, I'm 3 under par. Obviously a good way to start the round. And I know I talked about yesterday that when the leaderboards popped up, I wasn't really checking, but today in round 2, I am checking. But through 3 holes, I probably haven't checked it quite yet. Hole 4, 438 feet. It's a par 3. This one is really fun shot. You have to challenge the OB on the right, throwing something pretty directional at it and letting it hyzer out at the end. If you don't challenge the OB on the right and you throw it more at the basket, you're bringing it in the OB on the left into play. So again, same Zeus here, still no wind, and I'm loving that I'm able to throw my best disc out here. Didn't quite get it enough time in the air, but it's still good. I'm still finding myself with a chance for a birdie, but just not quite committed, and you can see the frustration. It was kind of an in-between putt, whether I wanted to jump it or step it, and I just didn't commit, and I just threw it. I didn't really think. So I was just a little bit upset with myself that I didn't fully think about that one before I let it go. Par is good on that hole, though. So we're moving on to hole 5. This one's a par 4. It's 537 feet. Like I talked about, I want to challenge the right side as much as possible because I don't want to find myself in these trees. Yesterday I made it work, but it just adds a lot more difficulty. If you're on that right side near the OB cart path, you have a much more feasible approach shot. There is OB on the left as well, the old ball golf green, but that one I'm not really considering so much. This is my most overstable Zeus, and I'm going to be throwing it right at Gabe, the catch cam, trying to stay left of or right of all the trees. And this is exactly what I wanted. And now I can choose to either go straight down the gap or hyzer over the sidewalk. And at this moment, the straight gap looked pretty appealing to me, especially after throwing that fierce so well on my hole 1 approach. Made easy work of that and carding another birdie here. Hole 6, 351 feet. It's a par 3. We talked about this one yesterday, how I want to aim to the right because the OB of this sand trap right here is in the middle of the fairway, and there's OB deep of the basket. There's no danger on the right, so I can aim really wide and look for my disc to hyzer. If you aim too straight, you are challenging that OB in the back. So this one is where I wanted to release it, but a little bit too turned over. I'm going to find myself in the group of trees on the right side, just outside the circle, and I'm forced to lay up here with all of the low-hanging branches. So note for final day, same line as that, but let's throw my more overstable disc so it gets some hyzer at the finish. All right, so leaderboard check-in. Kona Panis is 3 under through 6 holes. She's playing really well, and I'm actually playing with her this round, so it's really fun to watch and just throw alongside her shot for shot. She's got very developed backhand power currently. She's throwing a lot faster shots, so it's really fun to watch. Hole 7, this one's 531 feet. It's a par 4. This one, the first shot is pretty open and the second shot is nice and wooded, so I like this hole a lot. It's got a good mix of shots to get the birdie 3. So from the first thing that enters my mind on the tee pad is the big barrier tree on the right. It makes you have to throw a hyzer flip, and you can't really throw the line that I would want to throw. So I'm throwing this Zeus on a hyzer flip. It doesn't quite get to flat though, so it's going to hyzer out pretty far left towards the sidewalk, but not too close. I'm going to have an approach from the left side of the hole, and I throw my fierce just a little bit deep of the basket. And this one is our first elevated basket of the day, so I was excited to hit that putt. I know it seemed short, but it was still a tester in my mind, and glad to pick up that birdie as well. Hole 8, par 5, 918 feet. I told you guys yesterday, but this is probably the most scary tee shot on the course. Where you want to land the disc, which is right about where the shadow is right here, is very narrow. I would say it's only about 40 feet wide. And since the hole is so severely downhill, your disc just really wants to filter out and hyzer at the end. The second shot is blind, so you go uphill and then immediately back downhill, and you cannot see the OB on either side, but it's very present. So this second shot is equally just as scary. So on the tee, I'm grabbing my Raptor. This is a stable fairway driver. I'm throwing it really hard over the OB on the right, and knowing it will get a very late overstable finish and a very fortunate kick off the sidewalk as well. The second shot, I'm grabbing my Buzz, and I'm just trying to throw it as flat as I can, but I give it a little bit too much time in the air, and it sails OB on the left side. This was definitely an error, and I wanted that one to be quite a bit flatter and a little bit lower. I can still save par though if I get up and down, so I really take a moment and focus here, grab my Crystal Fierce, and find myself right under the basket and will card that par. Hole 9 is 693 feet. It's a par 5. Yesterday I got an eagle on it, but I'm trying to wipe that from my memory. That was obviously as good as I could do it. Really today I'm just focusing on getting it out of the gap clean and then seeing what happens from there. This tee shot is very daunting. It's probably the most woods that we face on the entire Emporia Country Club course. So just trying to get it out of the gap and then seeing what happens, seeing if I can attack this dog leg around the corner and then into the gap. Today I'm thinking either Buzz or Undertaker, but I didn't want to get too risky with the Undertaker, so I grabbed the Buzz again, and I'm just trying to put a tiny bit of anhyzer on it, but it comes out a little bit too flat, and I'm gliding towards the OB. I'm telling it to get down, but it does not find the ground quick enough, so I'll be moving to the drop zone, throwing my third shot. And I tell myself not to get in any more trouble, just grab my Fierce and put it inbounds so that I can see around the corner, but don't try to get it around the corner yet. Now this is my Soul. I know it gets a late turn that I really love, so I'm throwing this glidey speed 4 disc, and I do find myself inside the gap, looking at a putt to save par here from 25 feet. And just a little bit left there, so I will have to settle for a bogey. And you can see some frustration there. I am frustrated, but then I take a deep breath and I realize this is only my first bogey of the round. I am quite a ways under par, so try to take a deep breath and walk away and gather my emotions. Shout out to all the sponsors that are sponsoring this Disc Golf Pro Tour. This is the third Disc Golf Pro Tour of the year, and this is our first tournament back since quarantine. So I'm really excited to even be out here playing this weekend, and that was something that was definitely present in my mind, just the excitement of playing disc golf again. Hole 10, 402 feet. It's a par 3. This one's really fun. I really enjoy throwing this hole. It's a really well-designed par 3. It's the basket you cannot see from the tee, but just from your memory, you have to remember it's just right of this tree on the left side. So with the drop-off about 70% of the way down the fairway, that's when our discs are starting to lose speed anyway, and they kind of want to start hyzering out. So you have to rely on something that's going to turn over, but not turn over too much, because there is OB on the right side. And this is exactly how I wanted to throw my Undertaker, with a little bit of hyzer and turn it over. I find myself about 20 feet and connect on a birdie here. This is such a fun one to get down into that gap. Hole 11, 408 feet. It's a par 3. This one, you guys saw me go OB yesterday. I didn't get the disc wide enough, and it was 2 nose up, so there was no chance on that one staying safe. Today, my main objective is to aim it over on the right side at those OTB banners and just trust the stability in my disc to sail me left towards the basket. So this one is a little bit too high, but I am wider than I was yesterday. In my mind, out on the tee pad, I'm like, get down, get down. You still didn't correct it, but it does find the grass, and I'm glad that I got enough distance on it because it does get a little bit wider up there past the basket. My putt now was just a tiny bit too low and did get a scary roll, almost going OB, but it did stay safe, and I will be able to card the par 3. Improvement from yesterday. A little bit upset that that putt didn't go in, but I keep thinking it is improvement. It was not a bogey. You threw it in bounds. Move forward onto hole 12. This one I threw the Raptor yesterday on a severe anhyzer looking for that stable finish. This one I talked about what it's a very unique shot shape. We're not really forced to throw this shot hardly at all throughout our entire tour, so it's a very different type of shot. I'm throwing a really overstable fairway driver on a severe anhyzer and looking for it to hyzer up at the end of its flight. And this one was a little bit too tight, but I still threw it fast enough to fight through a couple branches, and I'm still inside the circle. And I'm able to hit the birdie putt and card my second birdie on hole 12 here. So through 12 holes, I find myself 6 under par. And I'm very excited about this one. Just putting together a really good round, and like I talked about, 1 bogey so far, but other than that, a very clean round, and I feel really good with all the opportunities I'm giving myself. Hole 13, 336 feet. This one kind of haunts my dreams. This is the hole that I believe I lost the 2016 World Championship on. To Valerie Jenkins. I took a 7 on this one. I just kept throwing it OB over that sidewalk. So I have to admit that that is definitely present in my mind every time I throw this hole. Don't throw it OB over the sidewalk. It's funny when a shot just won't leave your memory, but it helps me in this moment. I'm not even getting close to that sidewalk. I'm just throwing my Raptor a little bit inside and just barely getting around that tree. And I'm on the left side of the fairway at about a 28 footer. And again, 2 holes in a row, just a tiny bit too low on my putt. And I'll have to settle for another par here on the 13th. Hole 14, 600 feet. It's a par 4. Like I talked about, there's a lot of different options on this hole. The gap that the drone's flying over now is probably the widest gap, but if you don't turn it over enough, you can hyzer out towards that cart path. So there is a lot of players, and myself included, I did practice going the right gap over near that white fence. It is quite a bit lower of a ceiling, so you have to worry about your height, but you don't really have to worry about the disc hyzering out into trouble. So another plan I did think about was the roller if there was no wind. I did not expect to bust this out during the tournament because Emporia is very infamous for its wind. But yeah, with no wind today, I was able to throw the roller and get quite a ways down there. Wow, I did not realize how close it got to the out of bounds. But yeah, this got me down almost towards circle 2, and I was very, very excited about this opportunity at an eagle. And side note, my friend Dustin Keegan told me he would give me $150 if I took an eagle on this hole, so I was really, really trying. to hit that putt. I did not leave it short, but just a tiny bit to the right. Hole 15, 360 feet. It's a par 3. This one, really, we should all be getting inside the circle. It's not a very difficult hole. It's just with the OB visible, it kind of gets in your head sometimes. So really trying not to think about the OB at all, just trying to throw my Raptor flat and wide, and quite the opposite happens. It comes out very hyzered and not wide at all, and just sails it. I just sail at OB. So this is the drop zone, and I need to get up and down just to card a bogey. And this is my zone. And luckily I find myself just under the basket, and a slight bit of a lack of preparation. I realized in practice I didn't even practice from that drop zone. So I'm very happy to just trust my discs in this moment and get myself under the basket. But hindsight, I really wish I would have practiced from that drop zone. So that's a note I want to give to all of you guys. If there is ever drop zones in a tournament, practice from them. I know you don't plan on going OB and having to go to the drop zone, but it is nice to be prepared in that moment, especially because you're already out of bounds. I think it's really crucial and something that I will definitely do moving forward at all moments. Hole 16, it's 258 feet. It's a par 3. I'm so happy that there's no wind this round. I can throw my Crystal Fierce if I want to. But also today I put in a banger just in case there was wind. You see me with the Fierce in my hand. That is because there wasn't wind in this moment. Yesterday I had to go a little bit wide of the basket, and today I'm throwing it right at the basket, looking for a little bit of a drift. Oh, and just barely miss on the right side. That one really got my blood pressure up. It was perfect chain height, just a little bit right. I do leave myself with about a 25-foot tester right at the water and didn't quite commit to it. Miss it a little bit low, but I'm okay with the 3 there. Hole 17, 774 feet, par 5. This one has a really low ceiling off the tee, and it's uphill, so it makes your window that you need to throw it through really small, especially considering if you hyzer out too much, you're OB on the left tree line. The second shot, you can go over the old ball golf green and try to get an eagle if you get a clean tee shot off, but it is very hard to get that eagle. So a lot of us are just trying to pitch it over the green and then kind of lay up about a 70-footer from there. This one is my Undertaker, looking to hyzer flip it, and it looks good, but just not quite enough turn, and I'm just barely out of bounds. Now I'm grabbing my most stable Zeus, and I'm trying to go low under that branch really fast so I get some skips into the green, and I just throw it a little too high and hit that branch, and this is where I'm left with my Raptor. Similar shot that I just threw, but I'm a little bit closer and don't have to worry about the low ceiling. So this one was quite a bit easier, and I will card the par. Hole 18, final hole of the round, 381 feet. It's a par 3, and from the women's tee, we can be aggressive and go right at the basket over the water. You do have to worry about the big bush on the right, and there is OB up past the basket. So if you throw it a little bit too hard and or you get too much of a hyzer on the disc as it's landing, it can roll out of bounds on the right side. So that's something to consider as well. I'm grabbing my straighter Zeus, and I'm trying to throw it on a hyzer flip up to flat right at the basket. It flies very beautifully, skips right by the basket, and rolls as well. I'm almost out of bounds deep. You actually could see it past the OB flag, but it rolled backwards inbounds. And, you know, being a 30-footer on an elevated basket on the last hole, I decided to just lay up and take the par here and move into round 3 stress-free. So thanks again to GKPro. You guys are absolutely killing it. Thank you so much for covering the FPO and also giving me this footage to put on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this series. Let me know below how I can make this better. And yeah, subscribe. And thank you guys again, my Patreons, for making this possible.